Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. So, in today's episode, we're actually going to be looking at, is AMD a sinking ship right now? Is AMD a sinking stock? So, for many persons, you may or may not know or be aware, but the AI space, the AI platform right now has been doing tremendously well over the past 2 years. There's been a lot of growth, a lot of excitement, a lot of development happening in the artificial intelligence space. And what really has been the forefront and runners of the artificial intelligence is NVIDIA. And NVIDIA has been at the top of the AI space for the past 4 or 5 years. And so AMD right now is the direct competitors for NVIDIA. And over the past year, the actual stock price of AMD has been falling. So over the past 1 year, AMD stock price has fallen 20%. So that is 20% that the stock is down since last year, January. And year to date, the stock is actually down at about 1.59%, which is actually a cause for concern, because if you look at their direct competitors, NVIDIA is actually up 148% over the past year, and the stock price year to date right now is break even at about negative 0.01%. So there's not really much change that has been happening with NVIDIA over the years so far. And if you look at another competitor in the semiconductor space, Intel is actually down about 59% over the past year. So this really brings a question of concern. Why is the semiconductor companies, especially the US based companies, doing so poorly? And it really just comes back to really demand and supply, because currently MacBooks have been growing in demand, and it's really strange because Intel is the main component, the main chip makers for Microsoft computers. However, they are still falling, and AMD on the other hand has been getting some traction and some market growth into some of these Windows competitors, because I know, for instance, Asus actually has a AMD line, so you can actually purchase a laptop that comes with an AMD chip instead of an Intel, and the price is actually at about 200 US less than the actual Intel one, but still the Intel is the more favored and more preferred line. And when you look at AMD and their actual financials, you notice that since 2019 up to present, the company was really doing well from 2019 up to 2023, and then all of a sudden 2023 2024 the company has just been falling off. Like, if you check the stock price over the past 4 or 5 years, you notice that the stock price actually has been climbing. It reached a high of about $800, and now it's at $116, and that's really significantly low compared to when they had the all-time highs. So this really shows us that AMD currently is struggling. And if you look at the net profit for AMD, it actually was climbing from 2022 to 2023, and then there was a decline by 2023-2024. The net profit for 2023 for AMD is actually at $854 million, and surprisingly, for the 3 months ended September 2024, the net profit for AMD is actually $771 million, and the 9 months it actually has surpassed being over $1 billion for 2024 9 months. up to September ending, and the revenues has also seen growing demand. So in 2023 revenues were at about $23 billion, and for 2024 quarter three the revenues is actually at about $8 billion for the 3 months ended, and $18 billion for the 9 months ended, which suggests that something really is happening within the company. And so when you look deeper into the revenues, you realize that the biggest growth for AMD is from data center, and that would comprise of CPUs, GPUs, processors, those sorts of stuff that are demanded by persons to make. And then they have like the gaming, and then they have the retail products which they would put in computers to actually sell in the direct computers, as what Asus would have done, where they have a line of laptops that AMD actually is the chip for. But the real question for AMD is, what is the direction of the company? Are they a gaming company? Are they focusing on actual tailor making these micro semiconductors for individuals, for businesses? Are they more IT based? It really is a bit blurred when it comes on to the direction of the company and what they are doing. Like if you look at the direct competitors, NVIDIA for instance, you know that NVIDIA's main purpose is to provide good gaming chips, and they also are the leaders in artificial intelligence. So they are the first choice for persons who have artificial intelligence products, and they need a processor, they need a semiconductor to run these actual softwares and systems on. And so NVIDIA actually has the technology and the actual requirements to run these high fast paced high volume processors on at such a rapid time and pace. AMD on the other hand, it's still blurred. Maybe AMD is as good as NVIDIA, and one solution or one thing could mean that it's really down to marketing that would be the reason why they are struggling so much, and so they would need to create a better marketing campaign. But they really don't have a sense of direction in terms of where they are going. I personally have not knowing what is happening with this company, because when you look on the market, when you listen to persons talk, nobody's talking about AMD, and this really is not a good sign for them. And the person that are currently talking about AMD, it's not really great news that they have. So if you do a quick Google search of AMD worries, which I had done, there were actually two communities I found where persons actually were speaking about the complaints that they had with these AMD chips. So what these persons have done was that they actually built up the CPUs from the ground up, and they had used AMD chips in it, and they were sharing that while they were using the AMD chips, the company, the laptops actually had a lot of blackouts. So there were a lot of blue screens that was happening, it was glitching, and they mentioned two particular chips in it. And then there's another forum where the person shared that he actually preferred AMD to NVIDIA, which is ironic, and the community quickly rallied back at him and responded and stating that AMD really is outdated in terms of what they are doing. He possibly is using one of the more outdated types of chips, and the newer chips right now are not working as well as they should be. And this really shows in terms of the revenues, as customer demands has actually been falling since 2024, and it's even though it's the profits are up, the demand is still falling. And so when it comes down to companies, when it comes down to marketing, you really need to cater towards the consumers. And if you are not fulfilling the consumers' demands, their needs, their wants, then it's only a matter of time before you really start struggling. And AMD has been struggling over the past year. And this shouldn't have been a video comparing AMD to NVIDIA, but it just has to be done because you are being a direct competitor to the leading semiconductor in the artificial intelligence space. And if you are going to be competing with the number one makers in the world, then you need to ensure that you are producing materials and qualities that are just as good or even better than the number one competitors. And you also need to have great customer service, and you need to carve out a niche for yourself. So you're going to focus on artificial intelligence. Fine. What type of artificial intelligence are you going to be focusing on? Are you going to be creating chips for data processing, or is it going to be for image generation? Is it going to be for research? You need to carve out a niche, and then you start with that niche, and then you can expand broadly afterwards. And so with AMD, it's not really clear the direction that they are going, and it's clear that consumers are unhappy with these products. And so this really translates into why this company has been struggling over the past 12-15 months. And so they really need to turn things around if they want to see growth, if they want to see the company really competing with the likes of their number one competitors, NVIDIA. Because if not, then similarly to what had happened in the dot-com era, where there was the boom and there were so many internet companies coming up, Yahoo, AOL, Mozilla Firefox, all these other companies, internet companies, and right now the only ones around are actually Bing, which purchased out Internet Explorer, and Google, and Mozilla Firefox is still around, but not really that demanded as much, and there's Safari, which Apple has done. So if AMD really wants to stick around in the next 10, 15, 20 years, they need to turn the company around, or else they will end up like the search engines back in the 90s. No one will be talking about them. No one will even be paying them any mind. They probably would have to end up selling the company and merging with their number one competitors or a direct competitor to try and stay in the game. So that's all for today's session. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this episode, I ask that you give us a thumbs up, leave your comments down below so that I know exactly what you guys are thinking, what you liked, and just any questions you might have in general. And lastly, I just ask that you follow and subscribe to this channel so that you do not miss out on any new episodes as soon as they are launched. Until next time, take care. Love you guys. Bye.